Thank you so much. So this is one of the most interesting topic today. I know a lot has been discussed, but a lot has not been discussed as well. And we have got a very interesting set of panelists today, both from the perspective of those who are implementing AI and security at a large scale in large enterprise to also builders. So we have both the kind of perspectives in this discussion. Let's kind of break down the discussion into a few parts. One is, if we look at Mythos, what's different, what's going to change? We will start with that, and then in the later part of it, we want things to be very practical. Like I would like this discussion to be very action oriented, so that we can go back with how does it influence our lives, what should we do differently, both in the perspective of implementation as well as creation. There are a lot of aspects in terms of agentic AI which will be around governance, around safety. Where does the future lie for the humans? Where does the future lie for AI? Because that readiness is also very important, not just from individuals' career perspective, but also from the perspective of organizational roadmap. So I would like this discussion to be both strategic and very practical, so that we can take back with us things which we can go back and implement, either for us as individuals, as professionals, or also for our organization. So that's like the broad agenda which we have, or the vision or the goal which we have. So let's get started with this topic. We can start with Patrick, and I'll come back with the same question to Arnab as well. That, of course, there's so much of hype about Mythos. So what is materially different? Like why is that big hype? What has changed? Patrick, you are on mute.
Thank you, Bikash. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you, Easy Council, and thanks to all the viewers and audience here for tuning in. This is a great opportunity for the panelists to learn about Mythos. So that's where I would start, right? So this is a kind of like an unknown to all of us. It's yet to hit the mainstream. It's yet to be released. And all the information that we have are still in bits and pieces, right? So the question is, what makes Claude Mythos materially different from previous versions of AI in security discussions, and what we have seen so far, right? Now, the Department of Advanced Research Projects Agency, the United States Department of Defense's, high-profile projects. They, shortlisted a bunch of tools, and one of the AI security tools that they shortlisted was Mythos. And now, this was before Mythos. So, so all the tools that they shortlisted before Mythos was, they helped humans find and patch vulnerabilities in guided workflows, right? So they kind of gave you a workflow. They told you what to do, and you just follow the flow and you went with it, right? It autonomously chained together, multiple vulnerabilities into sophisticated exploits, and they even found years old, flaws in hardened operating systems, and and it did so without human steering, right? So the distinction here is more of agility, agency, and not just speed. However, what's different here, right? But Anthropic says that Mythos has already identified thousands of high and critical severity vulnerabilities. Okay, so that is where Mythos stands out, right? And the numbers are staggering, because what Anthropic says is that more than 99% are still undisclosed, while patching and coordinated disclosure are kind of, so it's done in a coordinated way. They're proceeding in batches, because you can't overwhelm the world. We know a few weeks ago, Mythos let out some things and all the cybersecurity stocks went down overnight, right? And we don't want to send such shock. They don't want to send such shock waves into the market. However, if you look at it, Mythos has autonomously found and exploited 0 days, a number of 0-day vulnerabilities in every major operating system and every major web browser during testing. And I think a lot of other tools that we currently use were also exploited. So what Mythos is? Mythos is an expert level performance, and it's not just learning something. So AI models, as we know, have to learn to keep improving. But Mythos kind of like is an expert when it enters. So that's what makes it very scary. 2 years ago, the best available models could barely complete beginner level cyber tasks. Okay. But today at expert levels, if you do let's say you give a capture the flag CTF challenge to Mythos, and it will, Mythos kind of, within hours it succeeds, and it's accurate 73% of the time. That's the statistics that Anthropic has released, right? So the capability was deemed too dangerous to release publicly, as I said. Because if they suddenly open the floodgates, it's like you open a dam and the next the village next to it just gets washed away, right? So that here it's not just a village. I think it's the entire cyber world will get kind of washed away. So Anthropic determined that the capabilities were too dangerous for general release, and so it is the first major AI model withheld from public access specifically because of cybersecurity grounds. Okay, not for any other reason. So that's a qualitative policy shift from add safety guidelines to don't release at all, because this is going to be a game changer, a paradigm shifter, etc., etc. So basically, Mythos is a general purpose frontier AI model that was not designed specifically for cybersecurity. That's what makes it even more interesting, right? But with its advanced coding and reasoning capabilities, it proved so effective at finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities that Anthropic chose not to release it publicly, right? So it's from the company, the discretion of the company not to release it. So this suggests the capability gap will widen naturally as general models improve. So as Mythos keeps improving, as it keeps learning, as it keeps scanning, as it keeps getting deeper into operating systems, tools, web browsers, etc., it will keep getting even more better, even dangerous, right? So in short, earlier discussions were about AI augmenting human security models, but Mythos, I think, represents AI operating independently. So kind of like AI which thinks on its own, right? And which can correlate vulnerabilities, which can chain vulnerabilities, and at a level that changes both the threat model and the policy response. So kind of like making the threat. A lot of times when we get threat intelligence, we look at it and we say that, okay, these are the strategies, but with Mythos, we don't have even time to even think about it that way. It's going to come and hit you before you know it. So that is where Mythos stands out. Thank you.
Great. So thanks, Patrick. So what you mentioned is very, very interesting, and at the same time, there are also a lot of research happening outside of Anthropic, right? So there are a lot of recent interesting developments that has happened. ChatGPT 5.5 is interestingly pretty good, much lower in terms of cost. In some cases, there are some claims that they are giving pretty tough competition when it comes to even comparing with Mythos, considering the cost. At at FireCompass, we focus on penetration testing using Agentic AI. What we have done is we do use frontier models, but we have also built our own SLMs, And what we are seeing is that these small language models, which are trained specifically for a narrow purpose, we can get like 3x better result compared to, let's take 3x more as anecdotal. We're going to publish the research on that. But at least anecdotally, we have the evidence that it can provide 3x better result compared to frontier models at way smaller cost, because I mean, it's very focused. The models are trained to only do specific purpose. So as we are seeing, like Patrick, what he mentioned, the most interesting thing is that it's not specifically trained for cybersecurity, right? So it's a general purpose model, which is doing excellent in this. So that's one direction in which things are moving. There's also others in the industry who are moving, like we are moving with an hybrid approach, use our SLM, use the frontier models, build special purpose vehicles where we are able to get probably even better results than the standard frontier models at 1/10 the cost. And we are able to do that because we are not trying to solve all classes of problems. We are trying to solve only a narrow class of problems. So the industry, another set of technology creators are moving in this direction. So we have many different directions in which things are moving, especially in the context of the evolution of AI and the hype around Mythos. So Arnab, can we go a little bit deeper into Mythos, into the architecture? What do you see is different? And also share your thoughts in terms of what do you think is kind of hype versus reality. Like, for example, there's also a kind of set of thoughts in the industry, which is Mythos has not been made public, not just because of the safety reason, which is absolutely true. That is one of the reasons, but also there's another problem that is of the cost. They're very costly. So that's another reason. So Arnab, what are your thoughts and insights more like under the hood? Both your perspective as well as whatever is known.
Thanks, Bikash. I think that's a really interesting one. See, if you look at every AI assisted tool before Mythos, it was primarily pattern recognition with a better lookup, smarter grep. Now Mythos does something which is structurally different. It maintains a coherent, reversible attack hypothesis across the multi-hour autonomous session, which means that when a human red teamer or an attacker works, he doesn't need to fire every possible thing. It is all about that how quickly he identifies which path to go and which path to discard, which to prune, and then eventually create a hypothesis, test it, again create refactor the hypothesis like that. Mythos actually able to do that. It forms theory, it executes code, it interprets crashes, it revises, it changes 4 or 5 multiple weaknesses into a sandbox, escape, etc. This is not a detection. This is what I call as adversarial cognitive capability, which earlier only human being was able to do. Now a AI model is doing. This is a very interesting capability, that observable capability wise. Now coming to the architecture part of it. Now this is not possible by prior architecture. Now what they have made changes. First thing is they have extended the chain of thought that spreads reasoning across steps. And in earlier AI model, if a particular chain of thought reasoning steps are very high, then normally they are compressed. Mythos found a workaround that without losing that, they are able to store the entire thing into a very large context, which is a million token size context. Now the parameter are in trillions. It's a massively huge model. I am at least not aware of this size model before. By the way, this is underlying thing is a neural network model, and it's a massively large, neural network model.
How does it compare with, say, ChatGPT 5.5? They all don't make it public, but what's the kind of guesstimate?
They're not in trillion. That much I know. It's not published anywhere. So think about a smaller model like a Mistral, 7 billion. For a 4.6, it's about 36 billion. And from there you are talking about trillion. Is an order of magnitude, bigger.
And that also makes it very costly, right? So that is...
Yes. Yeah, that I'm coming to that. Then the next thing that they have done is they have very cleverly used a technique called mixture of experts. Now, mixture of experts is, you probably heard a lot about it, commonly known as MOE, which is basically a gateway router kind of neural net, which takes a token and decide that which particular part of the neural network it is going to be sent to for processing, so that not every neuron need to fire. So in a way, this makes it faster. Whatever they have published, basically the whole code of Chrome browser, Linux kernel, crypto library, everything can easily getting inside the contextual memory. So there is very little information loss. It's a very high fidelity information that is available at the time of inference. As a result, what is the result? Very interestingly, a 16-year-old heap corruption memory of a library called FFmpeg, which survived 5 million fuzzing attempts before, has now exploited. So this is where Mythos, it's very different. Now we talk about the safety. That's a very interesting but a big warning sign. So the reason why Mythos is not opened up to the public, again, this is a little bit of hypothesis, but two very credible hypotheses are there. One is Mythos researcher had figured out that the reasoning that is visible reasoning is showing something different than the internal neural activation that is happening. So there, Mythos has also put a white box observability inside the neural network model. And what they're surprised to see is that neural network is trying to bypass all the safeguards automatically, even without telling. So it is showing something different. So they immediately stop that. And second thing is, if Mythos runs in your neighboring town, then the other town around that neighboring town will have no electricity. It is absolutely a power guzzler, and that's why I think it's a million token is about $1,500 currently. That's a charge, enormously expensive. So that's what my view, or my understanding about Mythos.
Arnab, I know we kind of we are on the same page because we work together, but I just wanted to bring this up. That is, one is this making these massively powerful models, but also this other trend of focusing on narrow models, like special purpose models, small language models. I think that could be the future, because we can't have so much of energy guzzler and so much of cost getting into it, and we don't really need cannon to kind of target a mosquito always, right? So if it is very specific purpose, narrow purpose, this movement of the alternate movement of small language models being trained, special purpose models or agents being created, a lot of agents, like our philosophy in which we are working is build a lot of agents for specific use cases. Something might be very powerful in just SQL injection, another could be very powerful in business logic pen testing. So in fact, business logic testing, IDOR, all these things were not possible earlier using dash scanners. We could build those capability using agents. So we follow this idea that let's have different agents which are experts in different things and make them and orchestrate them together. So that is another direction in which the industry is heading towards. So Arnab, do you want to share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think if you see there, it's very interesting. There are a lot of movement happening at the same time. Here you have a hyperscaler type AI engine like Anthropic and OpenAI type, and interestingly, there's also a movement happening where people are building a model to run on edge, which a smaller model can run on very low scale GPUs, can do a very targeted task but consume a lot less power. And guess what? The people like Google also are into it. IBM also building that. Gamma is an example, which is a model which can run on edge. But this is a place where amazing work is being done by these Chinese models, particularly DeepSeek and the Qwen. they are real experts into this kind of model. Now, when you use this kind of model, one thing is very important is that you need a kind of intelligent orchestration, and that's where things are moving from workflow to agentic architecture. So basically, based on the dynamic context, it is deciding where to route, what to work. So that ecosystem of agentic AI, along with the edge scale models, are also another big movement which is happening, and particularly for our kind of companies, that's a very interesting proposition. We cannot build a Mythos anyway,
but we can use Mythos, right? Like and like as an organization, our philosophy is we will use frontier models. Along with that, we will also use small language models. We will
Correct.
use weight. So Patrick, as a practitioner, you have to safeguard an organization. We focus on solving a narrow problem, just like only say application pen testing using agentic AI. For you, things are much bigger, right? There's so many aspects of security, and I'm sure this is becoming overwhelming for all of us now as an industry, with board asking how safe are we, these new techniques coming up, AI getting into the hands of bad guys. What does this mean for managing your assets, cybersecurity posture, either the internet-facing assets, the legacy systems, SaaS, third-party dependencies? What does that mean? Like how should we change? How do we handle this scenario?
Thanks, Bikash. Thanks for asking that question. In fact, I think there are, as we speak, there are so many forums that are going on around the world where CISOs are asked this question, right? And with Mythos coming into the picture, this has started getting very interesting or very deeply technical right now, is what I would say. So, speaking especially in Mythos angle, right? And what does that mean for each layer of attack surface? Now, with the FireCompass, especially, we have always worked with protecting our attack surface or internet-facing assets, right? So let's start with that. So Mythos, as I said previously, effectively makes a zero-day, attack, into basically a sub-hour vulnerability. Basically, what that means is it actually compresses the time required to develop, working exploits dramatically and shifting asymmetric advantage towards the attackers. What does it mean is, previously what we used to do is when we get, threat intelligence, the obscurity and the complexity will let us buy some time, but now that is gone, right? Especially when Anthropic was doing its own red team testing, Mythos, without any human intervention, automatically, fully autonomously, was able to, exploit pretty much every vulnerability that was out there, right? To put it in simple terms. And so that is where I think we are here. And as I said, it's not even a 0 day anymore. We are looking at sub-hour time that we have. So less than an hour is we would generate. We are looking at. I know it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's I think where we are headed towards right now.
So now, I don't think it's exaggeration. It's actually possible. Like, see, our agents are trying to exploit an application and writing. As a part of the report, we have the steps to reproduce and the exploit code, and
Right.
everything happens just in a few hours.
Yeah.
So it's actually happening. I mean, it goes, finds vulnerabilities, writes its own exploits, publishes the report, gives everything to you with the evidence. So I don't think it's an exaggeration. For a single vulnerability, of course, it can be done in less than an hour.
Yeah, and you are right. That is the scary part, and I think that's what is going to keep a lot of CISOs like me up in the night going forward, right? And then we have, of course, every environment has legacy systems. The older the company, the more legacy systems. Now, I have worked for some major banks, and these are banks that have been around for decades, if not even centuries, right? Goldman Sachs Goldman Sachs and BNP Paribas are two banks I work for, which are more than 200 years old now. Their computer systems may not be that old, but these are two banks that adopted technology much ahead of time, right? And so the earlier the technology adoption, the more legacy systems you would see, and that applies to any organization, right? Now, what Mythos is going to do is, if you let it loose, it will search for legacy systems, and it has the complete database of all vulnerabilities, and it will just shut down all the systems. Now, this could be a blessing in disguise, right? Because CISOs have always been asking for end of life and end of service systems, and that's a key risk indicator we keep presenting in a lot of board meetings and senior level meetings as well. But then, in reality, you can't just shut down legacy systems just like that. Now, some of these systems may be regulatory systems, and you shut it down, you're going to face, huge fines, right? So Mythos has the capability of doing that. The other layer that Mythos would play havoc is the SaaS or the cloud, implementations, right? Today we have CSPM and various other tools to keep our cloud configurations current, but cloud configurations is always a problem, and this actually what happens is this puts us at a very high risk, right? And if it is even combine that with legacy systems, it becomes even more dangerous, right? So exploiting vulnerabilities of your SaaS integrations is going to be Mythos is going to be a huge factor there, right? The other one is something that has featured in the OWASP top 10 quite a bit is broken authentication or broken elevated systems, right? So you have elevated access, and that is not configured properly. It can always be exploited, and this is where I think the visibility and the speed at which Mythos is supposed to be working. So this scaled visibility and behavior analytics, all this will help Mythos to wreak havoc at the endpoints, at the cloud, the SaaS level, critical infrastructure level, right? So this is going to be a really, really big headache, right? As code level vulnerabilities get closed, identity and social engineering become remaining, a high value vector here, so that is going to be another area that companies now have to literally tighten their security posture. And the next one is the biggest unknown, which is the third party dependencies. Now, the supply chain attack, your third party poisoning is arguably the most underappreciated risk, right? Now with AI-enabled attacks, these can be a huge target, and if we have any vendor partners who are not taking security seriously, we are at a bigger risk. So that is that is another big risk. So basically, these are some areas I would say are going to be exposed big time, and these are areas that will require a lot of work in order to ensure that we are safe and we are also up to date in terms of our security updates and patching and various other things that we are doing. So these are some of my views. Thank you, Bikash.
So Patrick, in the early days, there had been this question about adopting AI. There had always been, like, even for cloud, there was that inertia, right? People wanted to be cautious. What do you think? I mean, is there an option for enterprises not to adopt AI and or because it's still early days, or it's like inevitable, you must, there's no other way?
So, I asked this question to our CTO here in this organization, which I joined a few months ago, and he gave me a really very short and crisp answer. He said, we are looking at what happened 30 years ago when the internet was making its way into the mainstream, right? And companies that failed to adopt the power of the internet paid the price later, right? So AI is definitely going to stay. AI is becoming mainstream. And if any organization fails to adopt AI, fails to guard themselves against AI-based attacks, fails to tap into the potential that AI brings. Now, Arnab was talking about, how these are going to be power guzzlers and all that. So that's a different discussion altogether, because I think, at some point we have to come to that. But assuming that is, being somehow brought into a manageable, amount, I think AI adoption, I don't think there is an excuse for any organizations. Now, as we all know that, this is going to be industry specific, and even in the industry, it is going to be case by case, organization by organization. Now, two banks will not work the same, right? Each bank have their own ways of doing things, and the culture is different. So based on that, a lot of study and a lot of research must be done before AI is led to take over. But AI adoption, as the question that you asked, is inevitable, right? No company, I think, or no organization, and even no individual can be spared at the moment. That's where we are heading towards, and it's going at a breakneck speed. And so if we don't keep up with it, I think we'll pay the price.
So Patrick, you mentioned about speed, and for the first time in the world, it is possible to have sophistication at scale, sophistication at speed. It was not possible to have sophistication at speed and scale earlier. So Arnab, the question to you is, like, AI is not now able to get into that kind of sophistication, even in the hands of somebody who is not sophisticated. They can write exploits, find vulnerabilities, right? So sophistication is possible at scale and speed. So then, how should the defenders respond? What should be the response for the defender in the context of this changing of world order?
Right. So, again, that's a very good question. Thanks, Bikash. I was just looking and doing a little bit of search on this previously, and what at least 1 in 2 CISOs, so 50% or half the number of CISOs, at least. I mean, the numbers may be give or take a little bit, right? But what I'm saying is, if there are 2 CISOs in a room, and one CISO will admit that they can't correlate ROI, the return of investment, to risk mitigation and remediation activities. See, this has always been a big question for CISOs in front of the board, right? The board looks at ROI. So we spent so much money on cloud security, or infrastructure security, email security. What are we getting out of it, right? That is something that CISOs have always had problems trying to correlate, right? However, what we are looking at is how to measure this, right, and how to see where we can look at, or where we can see the advantages of bringing in AI, especially Mythos, to see how we can, from a defender's perspective, how that is going to be helping, right? So some of the things, I think the first thing is very low hanging fruit is the time to detect, because human detection time is always going to be much higher than AI detection time, right? So when we have AI-based tools, detection is much faster. This is going to reduce the business impact of any attack, any exploitation, any breach as quick as possible. So detection is one of the top things, right? So as a defender, I would prefer to detect as quickly as possible. Now, second thing, the moment you detect, you have to remediate, right? So MTDR, or mean time to repair, which is an ITSM term, becomes also very big for defenders, right? You find a breach, you find something that untoward has happened. How quickly can you repair it and come back? And this is where I think AI is going to play a huge role as well, as a very valuable tool in the hand of a defender, right? Third is the blast radius containment. This is something every CISO talks about. How quickly can you control, the blast radius, right? Recently, I was reading about a fire. There was a fire in a highly flammable environment, right? And if the fire had spread, the entire organization would have burned down. But there was a fire, and what the organization specialized was to contain the fire. And so one part of the highly inflammable material that the company was using caught fire, and you cannot put it out. Humanly, it is not possible. But the best thing to do is contain it. So contain it to that one container in which the fire was happening, right? So same thing kind of applies to cybersecurity as well. So if there is a breach, how quickly can you contain it? And this is where I think AI is going to play a big role in identifying how quickly the blast radius can be contained, right? And then finally, the last 2 points I would say is I did speak about supply chain management and third-party risk management in my previous answer as well. And this is another one that defenders have to pay attention to. And this is developing responsible tools using AI, especially good tools like Mythos is going to be helping the defenders a lot. And then finally is insider threat, right? Internal threats. So user behavior analysis, all this can be done at a much higher level than what it is right now. Zero trust can be implemented, much more robust going forward. And also internal vulnerabilities detection would be also much faster with Mythos and other AI tools that are coming down the pipeline. Mythos, I think, is just the beginning, right? And as probably in a year from now, we may be talking about another 100 similar Mythos kind of tools as well. Again,
Sure.
That's where I think we are heading towards, right? So as defenders, I think this is where I think we need to pay attention to, and so that's my view on this, Bikash.
Sure. So Arnab, we were talking about the velocity. So let's consider how do we respond to this velocity, and number two, safety governance becomes super important, right? Because agents can go crazy, it can do things which it is not supposed to do. So how can we respond to this velocity while taking care of safety and governance?
Yeah. Okay, so I start with the velocity, then I'll talk about the defensive. See, first of all, we need to understand one thing. We almost know nothing about it. Okay, so whatever we are discussing here are plain hypotheses.
No, let's not understand just Mythos, Arnab. We know where AI is, right? Let's consider that.
Yeah. So if we have a frontier model which is capable of this velocity of attack, what changes is the attack economics. The attack comes so fast that no matter whatever you try to do, you will not be able to defend using the legacy thing. So all is MTDR and everything that CISOs are currently thinking are out of the door. None of these are going to work. So far, every security tool before AI, even the AI assisted ones, are closed loop execution. Basically, given a task, executed, return output, and then human decided what was worth trying next. Mythos-like model, I would say, changes that. It moved the automation a layer above. So it is not only executing your decision faster, it is actually making the decisions about what to try next, which means it is forming the hypothesis that was earlier entirely the domain of human. So the natural rate limiter of an attack coming into your system is suddenly gone, right? So hence, what is the implication? The defensive readiness metrics that were designed for the current system, a number of them, Patrick mentioned, path coverage, patch coverage, mean time to detect, vulnerability scan, doesn't really remains relevant. What enterprise actually now need to measure is a very new type of measurement. What are they? Possibility. Hypothesis surface. Not just what vulnerability exists, but what would a reasoning system find worth pursuing in our environment and why? That is, so we are talking about attack surface. Now we need to start thinking about hypothesis surface. Now this requires modeling attacker decision making, not just attacker technique. That's a very big shift. Then adaptive resistance. How quickly your environment changes, shaped after initial contact. A static environment, honestly, is a gift to a model running parallel hypothesis. Deception, moving target architecture and dynamic segmentation matter more now. Decision latency, the gap between when our system generates a signal and when a human makes a response decision. This gap is the reasoning automation always wins. So basically shrinking the decision latency is a very important factor. Now unfortunately, most of the enterprise can tell you the patch SLA, almost none can tell you how long the environment remains interesting to an adaptive reasoning attacker. So this is the new age challenge that a defender has to face. Some of the research is showing good possibilities, and one of them is certainly a thing called artificial immune architecture. It is not a very new thing. It's being a old technology, but it was never being very important as is today. So I won't get into detail into it, but that is one area which a lot of work are happening. So maybe someday this is going to be a novel defender against this kind of attack. Now coming to the safety and governance, I think
before we go to the safety, I think let us do one thing. I think it's interesting to kind of connect the bridge, that is the world of practitioners, the world of research. The way we look at these two will be slightly different, but there's a bridge that connects, right? So and I have seen a few questions around this. So we'll come to the safety and governance. That is how do banks kind of respond to this Mythos threat? Are there any specific AI tools for the banks? I can see a question like that. I can see how should CISOs distinguish between transformational cyber threats and narratives that generate urgency without materially changing risk. So there are quite a few questions, but I can roughly kind of see that question is like, how do we operationalize things? So I'll just try to summarize. That is, if we have to fight this world which is out there today, we have to use AI. Patrick, you mentioned this, right? It's inevitable. We have to do that. That's one. Our velocity has to increase. Patrick, you mentioned that, right? Velocity to identify something and also remediate. Arnab has a deeper point of view that will not be enough. In the long run, things will be wider than that. You have to look into hypothesis, attack surface, or what did you use? The language?
Hypothesis surface.
Hypothesis surface. I can use the word attack here because we are in security. Okay. So anyway, things like that is going to evolve. But in near term, I think, and also there's this question: if there's a huge number of vulnerabilities that come up, how do we deal with it? So let us spend a little bit of time on how do we handle this. And then Arnab will go back to the safety. With that, we will close our interaction. So I'll start with my kind of point of view in terms of, and also combine Patrick and all of your thoughts. So we have to use AI. Let's get like if you look at how will Mythos going to impact us, it is going to be more around vulnerability findings in third party, in our web applications. it is going to find vulnerabilities in operating system and the standard tools which are out there. Now Mythos is being used for these operating system, browsers and all these places. So they're lucky that they have got that access. They are going to find those and fix it. So the implication is you will have more number of vulnerabilities to patch. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I know there's a lot of people who are worried about it. I believe that the order of increment is going to be such that enterprises will be able to handle. We are not going to kind of face a disaster because of that. We will be able to handle. But where I see the disaster or the biggest risk is in custom web applications, because you are not going to get access to Mythos for that. The attackers may use AI and find a vulnerability in a part of the application which was never traversed from the perspective of logical reasoning. That's what Arnab mentioned, right? Like it find out a vulnerability which nobody found. So if somebody with AI can get lucky and find that out, and as you know, in AI, the thing is you ask the same question, every time you get a different answer because it's stochastic, it's probabilistic in nature. So your risk is in your web applications. Your risk is in the third party, not in the operating system and the browser. That we will handle. The standard tools, vulnerability management will not be the biggest problem. So I think we need to get ready with this, where we need to have faster cycles of testing, comprehensive coverage of assets. So we have to improve our speed, we have to improve our coverage of assets, and we also have to improve the depth. And we can improve the depth right now in today's world only using AI. You can't, because we don't have enough humans. That's the reason. I mean, humans have the depth. So I see that as the most important thing in the context of Mythos and the vulnerabilities it is going to discover. Now there are multiple other things. You have to find it, you have to remediate it. There has to be the SOC has to be orchestrated, the patch management has to be orchestrated, fixing has to be orchestrated. So it has got a big kind of impact in downstream across everything. But the finding and fixing is going to be one of the first things which we will have to handle. And the biggest risk which I see over there is in custom web applications and third party, and not in the operating systems of the world. So that's like maybe a high level summary now of my thoughts. So Arnab, let's go to the safety, because we can have agents, but if the agents go crazy and do things which it is not supposed to do, then it's a danger, right? So how do we have safety and governance in the world of AI agents?
Okay, so this is okay. That's a very nice one because finally we are out of Mythos. AI agent safety and governance. Apparently, there are certain standards which are getting formed. It's also a very new thing. I could tell you from what we have done. Probably you are already aware. We approach it from the risk point of view. We have classified a class of risks, and based on the risk, say for example data risk, action risk. Action risk, for example, is an action that it has started to attempt a privilege action which it is not supposed to take. Data risk is it has started to making use of some data which in API calls which it is not supposed to do. Then in memory attack risk, it has generated a payload which can take down your system or escape your sandboxes. Those are kind of risk that when you generate a code dynamically or generate a plan dynamically can actually happen. So based on the risk, the I would say controls need to be asymmetric. So in some cases you are going to have a deterministic control, strictly rule based. In some cases you can use a neural network as a critic and determine whether it is allowed or not. So that's the various ways we are working on. The governance part, I'll probably leave it because the governance standards are getting created. NIST also has a standard. OS provided a standard. EU AI standard has now come up. So we will probably get a lot of guidance on that.
Maybe I'll add a few things, like in our context, since we are building agents, right? Or we have created agents for penetration testing. Now, as organizations, you might decide to build your own agents, or you might decide to buy agents, whatever that is. It'll be either build or buy. Now, whether you build or buy, I think some of these principles are going to be helpful for you. So these are a few things which we do. For all our agents, we have action scope constraints. What is permitted, what is not. For all our agents, we have input firewall. We use the word input firewall, like it's something which we created for naming it. So basically what input is permitted, what is not. For every AI agent, we have an output firewall. What output is permitted, what is not. So action scope constraint, input constraints, output constraints. Then when we enforce these things, we enforce the safety not by using another AI, but using rule-based models. So my suggestion is, if you have to have safety, use rule-based models for safety. That is more deterministic, because AI is stochastic in nature. So there's sometimes a non-determinism play in it. So having a rule-based deterministic system. Then we have the audit trail of complete chain of thoughts. We not only store the audit trail or logs of actions, but also the chain of thoughts. So complete audit trail of chain of thoughts and action, we give real-time visibility of that. Real-time kill switch. Are you able to go and clean everything up and stop something? For different agents, ability to choose like what those agents can do, cannot do. So you will need different types of agents. Like for our application pen testing, we have fast, standard, deep. These three does different kind of things. So you have to then role-based access control, very important. Like sometimes our customers said, you know what, for this user, I don't want them to see the proof of exploit code. Give this only to this set of folks. So role-based access control becomes very important. Application-based access control. For this application, this set of actions are permitted, not permitted. So when you build this enterprise-grade system, it's not just like you use LLM and just MCP and try to orchestrate. That's not enough. You have to think of this entire safety and governance in a very holistic manner. And last but not the least, that is the consistency. The results are very inconsistent when it comes to AI. The vulnerability description is different every time. The vulnerability that it discovers is different. There can be hallucination. So how can you handle hallucination? Interestingly, in pen testing, hallucination is easier to handle because we can validate everything. So we kind of almost, we are able to assure near zero false positives because it's a class of problem where it is possible. It may not be possible for all classes of problem. For the consistency, you have to have mechanisms that you get the same results. So what I mean to say is that when you are designing an agentic system, you have to keep all these things in mind. I gave this as an example for web application pen testing, which we are focusing on, or red teaming. But the same principles will apply across any other use case as well. So whether you are buying it, whether you are building it, I think the safety and governance is going to be one of the most important play. And as humans, I think the human oversight on AI is going to be very critical. So in the future, I don't see that we as humans have chance against AI in intelligence. We don't try to compete against machines in physical strength, right? We have given up. I think we will give up when it comes to intelligence. Also in the case of AI, we'll give it up. But what is going to be very important is the oversight. How do we govern this? How do we design these systems? How do we have the oversight? Where does the accountability go? So all those things are going to become very important. And I believe it's going to be a very interesting new world where the future of the professionals in the industry is going to be more around these kind of areas than fighting with sheer intelligence. Arnab, Patrick.
Honestly, I haven't done much research on that, so I will pass the question. Arnab, probably you can take it up.
What's the question?
Can a WAF be a countermeasure to virtually patch unknown vulnerabilities in web applications?
Possible. again, I'm saying hypothesis because so far the WAFs are all signature based. Now, if we assume that WAF has access to Mythos-like capability, then yes, it can probably flag a payload.
That's not
yet
there today, right, Arnab?
Yeah.
So I think in today's world, if the question is more in today's context, the answer will be both yes and no. If you're being worried because similar tools are being available in the hand of the attackers, and interestingly, you can create Mythos-like capability even without having Mythos. You can have multiple small language models. Nation-state actors can put those things together. Bad actors can do that, and they can come up with similar kind of capability. And even if it is not similar, even if it is half of Mythos, even then it is fine. They will probably have to shoot more number of arrows, but to have the same hit. But they might just try more times and compensate. So the threat is real, even if Mythos is not out there in public. Patrick?
No, the mindset is always be proactive, right? So what is coming down the pipeline, it is always better to be prepared, right? So the previous question you asked that caught me off guard, right? Can the WAF be effective for protecting against a Mythos kind of attack? Yeah, so WAF is purely signature based, right? Now that makes us think. So it's more to be proactive rather than be reactive. That's the answer I would give. Yeah.
And already we are seeing with ChatGPT 5.5, we are able to do certain things which is near to Mythos. And with our approach where we combine multiple SLMs and LLMs together, we are seeing like 2 to 3 times better results than the standard LLM. So that risk is real, whether we call it Mythos or not. Understand the risk and how do we handle. So couple of things. I think the world has not done that well, or as humans we have not done that well when it comes to educating others. It's very hard. So if we have to implement security, I mean, education, of course, we will try to educate, we'll try to have awareness, but that will not be enough. So along with that, I think there are a few other things that's going to happen, which is the cloud access, this CASB, cloud access security brokers, which has now become part of the zero trust. So in that, the shadow AI discovery is going to get embedded into it, because they can look into the traffic, the network packets, right? So it can find if there's shadow AI being used. The EDRs, that is going to build capabilities to detect if some kind of AI is being used. So I think a lot of these conventional technologies, SOC, or EDR, then zero trust networks, all these will build the capabilities to find shadow AI. So it is going to get embedded, and the ability to automatically detect and stop or prevent, that is going to be more important, along with awareness, which is also a must. So I think we are at the end.
Yeah, awareness is key, because people are always inquisitive and curious. We can have all the tools, but if people are not aware about the risks that they're bringing into an environment, then this will continue to happen. Yeah, we need the tools, we need the guardrails, we need we need to be gatekeepers, but then CISOs being gatekeepers is kind of slowly becoming a thing of the past, right? So it is more of everyone being accountable, everyone being responsible, and that comes only through awareness. But yeah, it's the answer is shadow AI is going to be a headache, just like how shadow IT was, a much bigger headache for CISOs and IT management as well. So let's see how that evolves. Yeah.
So I'll try to answer this in just one line, because I don't want to talk about specific tools. There will be a lot of tools, and what is relevant for one organization may not be relevant for another. But here's this basic strategy. look for agentic AI for everything. If something is being done today using a non-agentic approach, the question is, does making it agentic adds value? There could be a few things where making it agentic doesn't add value. It's better it is rule-based. You don't need that creativity. You don't need that kind of finding all possibilities and stuff like that. In that case, it's okay. But if making it agentic helps, then upgrade that to an agentic approach. If you see the attackers are using agentic approach for that specific use case, then go to agentic. So whatever technology is out there, I believe those technologies are going to become agentic in nature. That's this transformation which we are going to see in the industry. The SOC, source, SIEM, penetration testing, red teaming, everything is going to get agentic in nature. So that's the future. We need to just be at the top of the technology pyramid. But it's not necessarily a specific tool. It's going to be a lot of tools which are going to go agentic.
AI is here to stay, and as AI grows and as AI adoption grows, we will be seeing more and more tools and strategies and technologies like Mythos that are evolving. It will continue to evolve, and as I said, a year from now we may be talking about multiple such technologies, multiple such models that we are looking at. So yeah, it is inevitable. But as Arnab said, this is also going to be a huge drain on the infrastructure, especially power. So we have to strike a balance there. But be prepared. Let's not run away and be proactive. That is the only message I would leave. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. What I would like to say is, for years, defenders benefited from scarcity of elite offensive talent. AI changes that equation. As offensive capabilities become more scalable, security can no longer be a periodic exercise. It must be a continuous discipline.
Yeah, maybe I'll summarize more in a slightly generic manner. That is, stay open-minded, keep learning.